7 o'clock, okay. Okay. Everybody good? Okay. This is J-Lo. Your husband left you alone Sunday? Man, he's out there having a good time at camp. All right. Oh, there you go. Hey, sometimes when they leave, you can have a good time. Uh, that's why I always look forward to when Vivian says, I'm going to go visit my mom in LA for a week. No, no, I miss her every time she goes. No, she can't even. Yeah, pray for me with my wife. Okay, so glad that you're all here today. Um, we want you to know that after church, we have a small little bowl of food for you. You can eat there. Uh, we talked last week about the Good Shepherd putting a table for you in front of the enemies, and he always puts what you like. And so I thought, well, last week it was Cain, and he liked pizza and ice cream and cake. But for me, one of my favorite things I like eating is pasta salad. So after church, don't take off quick. Come and get a bowl, take it with you, or eat it there in the dining room. You're welcome to do so. So we have a very interesting class today, and I pray that you would take notes. If you don't have your paper and stuff, but maybe, we need to start doing, Brother Rick. Did we get the tithing envelopes yet? Okay, if we don't get them this week, I'll let them. I don't want that company. All right. Um, I'll get a different company that will do them right away. Um, let me also say that maybe we can get some notepads for people that want to take notes. I think we'll get that for you guys and have them there. And that way, if you want to take notes, we'll have a notepad for you. What I'm going to say to you today is, it's really important. I hope it opens up your minds, as it opened my mind up in my heart, and to where I'm at. Now, I'm going to give you a story that I've already said, but I got to say it again, just so I can start this class. Okay. So we're talking about. See how the devil works? So it's like, the Bible teaches us that in chapter 23 of Psalms, verse 5, what I really love about this verse is, or where it's located at, it's located after you've gone through the valley of the shadow of death. It's gone through still waters. It's gone through all these things. And then in verse 5, it talks about how he prepares a table for us in the presence of our enemy. That verse 5 has always caught my attention because if I was a writer of 23, I wouldn't have written that. I would have said, and he prepares a table for me in the presence of God. But he prepares a table in front of my enemies. So that caught my attention. And the table, you have to understand this, the table, it has a setting for only 2 people. Okay? The shepherd and you. That's the only ones invited. He's the only one that you are the only one that he invited to have dinner with him. Just you and him. No one else. But on occasions, you will find that there's more people sitting at your table. And that's what I want to talk about today. We're just going to go through one, and then this particular thing is going to take about 3 or 2 Wednesday nights to fill out, or maybe I might just do it on a Sunday morning. But couple of years ago, my wife and I don't know if it was her birthday. I don't know. It was an event for her. And we decided that we were going to go eat. And I told her, but I don't want to go to Fresno. I didn't want to go to Shanghai, or I didn't want to go to, where do we usually eat at? At a steakhouse, or sometimes we'll go to Huckleberry's and eat there. But I didn't feel like driving to Fresno, so we decided to eat at Denny's because her and I like the senior discount, the chicken fried steak. I think that's delicious stuff. It's perfect. So Joe, who was the guy there, he goes, how many are coming out? It's just me and my wife. So he gives me a table, just me and her are by ourselves. So, we start talking. We just talking about the day and stuff and just focusing on her. When all of a sudden, I feel a shadow coming and a chair pulls up, and there was a guy that used to come to our church, came and sat on my table with me. And he starts talking to me. And I'm looking at him, and then I look at Vivian, and so I turn around and I say, hey, bro. I said, hey, how you doing? He tells Vivian, hey, Sister Viv, how you doing? And so he just starts talking and talking. So I said, bro, can we just stop here? You know what? I'm spending the night here with my wife here at the Denny's. So, it's just a table for two. I said, did you notice there's only 2 chairs, and a small little table? That means a table for 2. So can you, I just want to be alone with Vivian. And because I don't know if I told him it was her birthday, but he goes, oh, it's your birthday. Okay, happy birthday, Sister Viv. And then he continues talking to me. And he wasn't getting the hint. So finally I had to say, you know what, bro? You need to stop. If you want to talk to me, come to my office. And I know that probably sounds rude that I'm saying this, but it was a moment, it was a special moment for me and Vivian, and that's what we wanted. And so he gets up and he leaves, right? And then about 10 minutes later, we get our food, and before I know it, he's sitting there again. But this time I just started to eat and stuff, and I know he wanted to tell me something, but he didn't say anything, but he just sat there. And I didn't notice him till he was actually sitting there. Well, I want to say this to you, that our enemy that's against us, he's swift and he's a vicious enemy. When this unwelcome visitor shows up, I want you to know something about the devil. He's often quiet at first. He's even friendly. When the devil sits at your table, he's even friendly. You might not recognize him when he first sits down, because the devil doesn't arrive with brightly flashing lights, with a neon pitchfork. He doesn't show up like that. He doesn't sit down with a growl and threatens to gouge out our eyes. He doesn't do that either. No, at first, it's simply another person seated next to you, helping himself to your brownie. You ever thought about that? The table is set for 2, and when the devil sits there, or any of these other type of spirits, when we talk about later on, sits there, they're eating your food. And I always thought, with what fork? There's only 2 forks. There's only 1 cup of water. There's only 1 bowl of food. So he's not eating the master's food. He's not touching his fork or his napkin or his water. Guess who he's eating from? From yours. And he eats with your fork, and he puts it back in your plate, and then you grab it and eat it. That's gross. It only takes a second. This unwelcome visitor will sit down so swiftly and so casually that it's hard to discern his true character. He often appears to be on your side at the start. He promises you relief from your troubles, because in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, 14, describes how Satan masquerades as an angel of light. That's what the Bible says. Which means that the devil rarely comes to the table showing his true colors. He doesn't sit here showing his true colors. The devil comes to the table not showing his true colors, but his whole purpose is found in John 10:10. For the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I want you to know something, that someone who appears to have your best interests at heart, someone who offers you respite from whatever pain that you're feeling. This is how he talks to you. Hey, how's it going? You doing okay? You don't look so good. How's everything at work? I don't honestly know how you do it because your boss is a jerk. I mean, really, you're a real trooper to hang in there and put up with that idiot. That's what he's whispering to you. So how are things at home? Still rough? Man, I pity you. I really do. Mind if I have another cupcake? Because these things are delicious. That's what the devil's saying to you. He might even quote scriptures to you. The devil did that when he met Jesus there in the wilderness. Basically, the devil said to Jesus, here, check out this one verse taken out of context. It's the big answer to what you're going through. Here, this one verse will be just the ticket that you need. That's what essence he was telling Jesus. The enemy will use whatever devices are available to worm his thoughts inside your brain. Maybe it's a movie you watch, or maybe it's a series of influential memes that flash by on social media, or a conversation between two people that happen to be within earshot. But you're not positive how the devil thoughts got in your mind, but they are certainly in there now. He'll kick you when you're down. Maybe you're lonely, or maybe you're angry, or maybe you're tired. Whenever you feel burdened or pressured, you become more susceptible to the evil's influences. Because in 1 John chapter 2, verse 16, describes three things or three items in the devil's toolkit that he will use against you. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. That means the devil can take anything the body naturally desires and uses it to harm us. That's the lust of the flesh at work. And the devil can use anything we see and wish for as part of his trap to lead us towards destruction. That's the lust of the eyes. And then there's the pride of life. In this particular case, is a harmful sort of bragging or boasting or showmanship or ambition that causes us to have too much confidence in ourselves. That's pride. The devil will use that when you think too much of yourself. One of the things I've learned about the enemy, that sometimes he appears empathetic, because that's how he worked on Eve way back in the Garden of Eden. Genesis 3 describes how the devil, in the form of a serpent, prompted Eve to question if God was truly good. The devil showed Eve the forbidden fruit and pointed out how beautiful the fruit was. The enemy whispered and said, surely God is withholding something from you. Something that you truly need. That's what he's withholding from you. And then he continued and whispered. Soon Eve was agreeing with the devil. He nodded her head, motioning to Adam, bent on convincing herself and her husband that the fruit was indeed good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom. That's what the enemy was whispering to Eve. In whatever way the devil gains access to your table, his goals are always the same. And here's the goal. He wants to gain access to your mind so that he can destroy you. It's his job. He wants to get inside your head so that harmful thoughts can be planted in your mind. And those thoughts will grow unchecked and they will spill out into action in your life. He wants you to be overtaken by wickedness. He wants to steal everything that is valuable from you. He wants to kill your relationship with God. He wants to cause division between you and the people who care for you. The devil is not gentle, not in the long run. He was a murderer from the beginning. And he sets snares that capture people so that they do his will. The one thing I've learned about the devil, he's vicious and cruel. And he's always prowling around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. And that someone is you and I. That's what he wants to do. So I'm going to ask you a question. Has the enemy already taken a seat at your table? With all this trickery, it can be hard to recognize the enemy's voice. He was prowling around Eve in the Garden of Eden. He was prowling around the night Jesus was betrayed. And I hope you get this right here. It's not up to us to stop his prowling, but it is up to us to keep him from sitting at our table. You can't stop him from prowling around. Remember, God made the table, prepared the table while he's prowling around, while the devil prowls around and all his enemies and then all those that want to come against us. He sets them in front of us. He set the table in front of them, but he invited you and him just to sit at the table. Now, while you're sitting at the table, you can see the devil prowl around. You can see things prowling around you. But you know what your job is? Your job is to focus on the one that's sitting by you. Whew. While you're eating, you can't be looking around. That's not your job. Your job is to focus on him. I believe the Bible says in the book of Hebrews, fix your eyes on him, who is the author and the finisher of your faith. That's what it says. How many of you have gone to Denny's and you sit there and you're looking around all over the place? Anybody do that? I do it all the time. And in fact, you know what the saddest thing is? Is that I've gone to tables, I've gone to eat at restaurants, and you see a husband and wife sitting together, like me and Vivian sit together, and both of them are on their cell phones. And one time, and Vivian got mad at me for saying this, but one time I got up, I was leaving, and I told the husband, I guess you're not interesting enough. And I walked out. I know, Vivian was going to rebuke me. But the thing is I walked out, and I told him that. But he got it, because he told her something. See, when you're going to take your wife out to eat, you just look at her. Not looking around like, oh, I wonder if we catch anybody here that we know. No. It's him. And so in your walk with the Lord, just you and him. Just you and him. Don't worry about who's walking around. Don't worry about jealousy. Don't worry about holding on to an old past. Don't worry about any of that stuff. It's you and him. Because if you look around, guess what's going to happen? Someone's going to slide up. Someone's going to say, hey, I remember you, and they'll come to your table and begin to talk to you. So it's not up to us to stop his prowling, but it is up to us to keep him from sitting at our table. You need to say, like I told my friend, you need to get out. I know it sounds rude, but can I say this to you? You got to be rest assured tonight. You have the power as a son and a daughter of Jesus Christ to exercise faith that's defiant of the devil's whispers. You can say, in Jesus' name, I won't entertain your words, I won't entertain your thoughts, nor will I entertain your influence in my life. No more. Be gone. Instead of asking him, how was the food? And if he's been eating off your table. So what if the devil's already sitting at your table? And you haven't even recognized that he's there. It is possible that you become so accustomed to the negative thoughts and the destructive emotions that you don't even realize that the enemy is eating your lunch. Whew. How do you know if the enemy is already sitting at your table? By the predominant, relentless, fiery arrows that are flying mostly furiously from the devil's arsenal of weapons towards you. We first need to recognize some lies that the devil tells us if he's sitting at your table. So I want to talk about one of those lies tonight, right? I grew up in a church in Colorado that when I was 12, I remember being in a 7th grade boys thing, and there was maybe about 8 or 9 of us, and my teacher was Sister Swasso, and I remember our classroom. It was a linoleum floor, messed up linoleum floor, and the back walls of the classroom, there were cinder block walls, and we had metal folding chairs, and there were maps of the Apostle Paul's missionary church. There are 3 of them, all around the walls there. And then there was a painting by Olin Mills of Jesus, and it was a painting of a meek and mild Jesus. It looked like he hadn't been out in the sun for a long time because he looked pale. His robe was perfect. His hair was perfect. He had a lamb on his shoulders, and he had a rod in his hand. And it looked like Jesus was gazing off into Foreverland with a faraway look in his eyes. The painter, I remember Olin Mills, he painted Jesus that looks nothing like the real thing. I want you to know something about Jesus. He's your hero. Watch this. He's also your defender. He's also the mighty Son of God. So when you're up against life and death, and when your back's against the wall, when circumstances are poised to take you out, and when the devil is whispering lies to your ears, you need to know that there's an all-powerful God, an all-powerful good shepherd with a rod in one hand and a staff in the other. That's the Jesus in Psalms 23. That's why we find comfort in his presence. With that staff, the good shepherd can grab you and pull you into safety. And with the rod, he can crush any prowling lion or raging bear that charges towards you. I want you to know that. You got to have a different outlook. If you sit here long enough, you're going to see that this shepherd is not a shepherd that has a faraway look in his eyes, that he's waiting for you in heaven. When you have a relationship with this shepherd and you talk to him, you'll know that he loves you and he means business with you and he won't let no one come against you. But you got to have a relationship. Here's the problem. We talked about it last week. The problem is that we have the table. You know what it's for? It's for fellowship between you and the good shepherd. Fellowship. And the more fellowship you have with somebody, the more you get to know them. You'll get to know that person's strengths. You'll get to know some stuff. You know, when I married Vivian and I brought her, she was working for the Transamerica here in LA, good paying job. I take her to Colorado to a little old church that hardly got paid. I think we averaged about, $80 a week. How much were you making when you were working back then? So she comes, and you got to remember this. Vivian and I really never had fellowship with each other. I met her in Bible school. I was engaged with somebody else. When I left Bible school, when I graduated, I broke up with that girl, and then I wrote Vivian a letter. And we started writing through letters. And in the letter, I asked her to marry me. And then I went a year later, I went to LA. And we went on 5, 6 dates before I even kissed her. Her brother would tell her, did he kiss you yet? No. He goes, he's not funny, is he? So I marry her, and I'm bringing her to Colorado, and I have some hardcore people there. And I didn't know how my wife was going to handle these ladies. They were hardcore. But the more I had fellowship with her, the more I had confidence in her, because, man, she went back down. In fact, they were more afraid of her than they were of me. Because they didn't have a pastor's wife like this one. You know, she got involved, got up at 6 in the morning, made tamales when we were selling tamales. She would get up and help clean up and stuff. She was all that, and the women loved her for that. But I'm saying this is that, but the more her and I had fellowship, the more strengths I found that she had. And the more you have fellowship with him at this table, the more strengths you're going to find that Jesus has, and you're going to be amazed what Jesus can do for you. Whew. So, I want to talk to you about one lie that you and I need to be very careful with tonight. It's not so that, we're going to talk about the lies, not so that you can focus on them, but that you can avoid them. Okay? Here's the problem. We focus on his lies more than avoiding them. You need to fix and gaze back towards the Good Shepherd. And when you are able to spot the following lies that are coming your direction, you can overcome them and win the battle for your mind with the truth in Jesus' name. So here it goes. If you heard recently that it's better at another table, then you can be certain that the enemy is at your table. Let me explain. Jesus' table, the one that he prepares for you, is about life and life in abundance in John 10:10. Any other table than God's table, it's about stealing, killing, and destroying. When the devil sits at your table, he often points to another table and talks about how amazing it is somewhere else. He points to a place that's not the table where God is, and says, and then he says this, over there, if you go over there to that other table, that's the solution to your problem. If you hear that, that means the devil is at your table. See, the devil is the worst kind of salesman. He tells you exactly what you want to hear, and he'll show you exactly what you think you're looking for. He doesn't come to the table and announce to you that he's going to kill you. He doesn't do that. He comes to the table with an offer to seduce you. But ultimately, he's not telling you truth. He's not selling you life. No, he is selling you lies, and he's selling you death. And woven into the devil's pitch that it's better at another table is the trickery, we're going to call it, of the lies of comparison. Okay? Because the devil will always tell you that there's a better table somewhere else. Surely you should leave, this is what he tells you, surely you should leave your spouse and hook up with someone else. Life will be better there, right? That's what he's telling you. That's the solution to all your problems. If you could just be with somebody else, surely you should run with that other crowd. And here's the other comparison. You could surely be with somebody else. Surely you should run with that other crowd, because that crowd that's not sitting at the table with Almighty God, and if you could just abandon all you know to be true and go down to your own thing for a season, that's going to be what you want. So he's saying, leave the table that the Good Shepherd prepared for you, because in the other table, there are no restrictions. In fact, there's more freedom in the table where the Good Shepherd is not at. Go to the other table. This is what he's saying to you. A table without fellowship with God. There's more life. There's more food. There's more satisfaction. There's more joy. There's more of what you've been looking for if you go to another table. Don't give in to that lie. Because the devil loves for you to look at your life and compare it with someone else, so you wish you had what they had. He'll mix in a little jealousy. He'll sift in a little coveting. And he'll add a dash of woe is me. And then he'll throw a few lines about how God must love that person more than you, because he has more than you do. Or about how God is blessing that person more than he's blessing you. Or about how surely God has withheld something you need. And pretty soon the devil has convinced you that God isn't good. God hasn't blessed you. God doesn't love you. You missed out on something good because God is mean, or God forgot about you, or God's been lying to you all this time. He said, go to the other table. We call this, the grass is always greener on the other side. If you're not firmly seated at the table with the Almighty, and if your eyes are not locked on those of the Good Shepherd, then you're distracted by the tyranny of comparison. Scanning the horizon around you, what do you see? This is what you see. Bob has a better job in the position in the company. Even though he cut a few corners, it kind of worked out for him. That's why he's driving the new ride and you're struggling to buy your teenager a decent car. That's why he and his wife just added that fancy pool at their new house with a rock waterfall in their backyard. See what he's doing? Trying to make you to compare what you don't have to what Bob has. Or he may say to you, look at Jasmine. Every post in her account is perfect. Her kids, their vacation, her little shed that her husband, Ronnie, built behind the house. And you don't have nothing like that. And then there's Jimmy, the guy you met at the gym. He finally ditched his wife. And his dysfunctional family, and got detangled from his crazy mother-in-law, and is living in Sonoma with a new chick. He seems to be carefree and happy. He wants you to compare what you don't have. Then how about Anita? He says, hey, how about Anita? She quit the church. And her entry-level job at the wireless phone company. And what she's doing now, she bought an RV, and she's doing an RV thing in Utah. No responsibilities, no commitments, and no baggage. And you're here stuck in hot Sanger, in hot Delray, in hot Selma, in hot Reedley, in the hot valley. And then you hear all these whispers that he's telling you. Now you're comparing. You know, the enemy masterfully paints an inviting picture of freedom. It's over there where the grass is always greener. These thoughts that you can shrink from commitments and have it your way, those thoughts don't come from Jesus. The Good Shepherd doesn't give you those thoughts. He comes to give life and give it to you in abundance. That's what he comes to do. So I'm going to ask you, are you moving away from what you know is right and good as you're reading or hearing this lesson today? Are you thinking about bailing out on what you're committed to? Are you close to doing something that you know is contrary to God's best for your life? Something you know that you'll regret? Or have you already made the jump away from Jesus? And you're quickly discovering that the greener grass is less than you bargained for. If so, I want you to know something. The devil is at your table. But you don't have to live this way. Jesus is calling you back to the table that he made for two, you and him. So don't give the enemy a seat at your table, because he'll whisper to you, and the main thing that you got to take care of is those thoughts. What did I marry her for? What did I marry him for? How come I come to this church? How come I have to listen to this preacher? How come I have to listen to these songs? How come I have this job? The devil's right. My boss is a jerk. I had bad kids. And the enemy will just... And if you sit there and think about what he whispered to you, it will destroy your life. So, this Jesus that we serve, he's not a pretty Jesus. He's not a Jesus that has his hair combed, has a tan on his face, wearing a pretty gown. No. This is a good shepherd that wants you to sit with him and find out what he's all about. So when you're sitting there looking at him, don't be looking anyplace else. Because your table is in front of your enemies, and they're prowling around. They're moving around. But your job is to focus. You know what I really enjoyed Sunday morning? I'm going to tell you what I enjoyed Sunday morning. I got kind of hard on the people Sunday morning, right? Kind of said some hard things about people on the cell phones, people watching their phones, their watches. And after I said that, every single eye in the church was focused on me. I didn't see no one moving around. I didn't see no one dare go like this. And that's what we need to do about Jesus. Don't be looking around. Because if you come to church and you turn around and look around, you're going to see, man, look at the way he was dressed. And then the enemy will whisper, man, that's not even Christian like that. And then all of a sudden, instead of listening to the pastor teach, now you're thinking, man, how come the guy dresses like that? No, right here. That's where it's at. For all you married guys, you focus on your wife. You don't kiss her and then look at somebody else. She'll slap you. And she should. You just grab him and say, you look at me. Find out what I'm all about. So tonight, let's take care of this in here. Because the enemy wants to destroy you. The enemy wants to mess up your life today. Anybody want to ask anything before we close here? Okay. So, after we finish, you're welcome to go into the dining room and grab some macaroni salad. No, pasta salad. Okay. We have a prayer need. Brother Rick's nephew his wife had a baby, and she's not doing well. What's her name, Sister Rosa? Haley.